welcome to the course on behavioral economics. Today it is lecture 7 and we are going to talk about achievement and craftsmanship, the driving process in economic behavior. So, first of all we introduce achievement motivation. In this module we will explore the concepts of achievement motivation and workmanship and their profound impacts on economic behavior. Achievement motivation is the drive to excel and succeed in relation to a set of standards. So, whatever standards we basically set for ourselves, accordingly we need to keep ourselves motivated in order to achieve them. So, it is a concept pioneered by McClelland. It refers to an individual's drive to excel and succeed. This motivation significantly influences economic behavior and decision making processes, and that is why this is a concept that we have taken up here in the introductory topics. So, according to McClelland's need theory, there are 3 primary needs: need for achievement, which is in short called nAch, need for power nPow, and need for affiliation, which is nAff. Developed through behavioral experiments in 1961, or rather published in 1961, McClelland's need theory identifies 3 core motivators. So, as mentioned above, they are achievement, power and affiliation. These are the motivating factors. These needs shape economic decisions and workplace dynamics. So, what does this theory tell us? First of all, there is need for achievement, which is basically strive for personal success. It is a good fit for entrepreneurial jobs. The second, need for power, basically gives a desire to hold authority over others. This is a good fit for leadership roles. And then the third one is the need for affiliation, where individuals prefer collaborating instead of competing. So, this is fit for client or customer service jobs. So, now we individually define each one of them, beginning with need for achievement. It is defined as the drive to excel and succeed relative to standards of excellence. The need for achievement, or nAch, is characterized by a strong drive to excel and succeed. Individuals high in nAch tend to seek challenging tasks, prefer personal responsibility and desire regular feedback on their performance. For example, entrepreneurs like Elon Musk. High nAch individuals thrive on challenges. Elon Musk's ventures into SpaceX and Tesla reflect his relentless pursuit of ambitious goals, and there are many other highly successful entrepreneurs whose examples can be taken, and if we go through their lives we will find that they have been always driven by need for achievements, and that is how they have gone through a large number of several challenges. Perseverance is one important characteristic which help them pass through challenges and still pursue their goals. Next, talking about need for power, it is defined as the desire to influence and lead others. The need for power, or nPow, reflects an individual's desire to influence and lead others. Those high in nPow often seek leadership positions, enjoy competition and are concerned with their reputation and influence over others. There are 2 types of need for power. First of all, personalized power, for example authoritarian leaders, and then socialized power, which is more like team oriented, for example transformational leaders. nPow drives leaders like Jeff Bezos, whose focus on influence and control shaped Amazon's dominance. However, power can be personalized or socialized as mentioned above. Then talking about need for affiliation, this is defined as desire for harmonious relationship. The need for affiliation, or nAff, represents the desire for friendly relationships and social interactions. Individuals high in nAff prioritize cooperation over competition, seek harmony in relationships and often excel in customer service and team oriented environments. For example, Google's collaborative culture. At Google, nAff drives their psychological safety culture. Psychological safety primarily refers to the absence of interpersonal fear. You basically feel comfortable in the company of other people. So, in that kind of a culture, teamwork and collaboration basically flourish. They lead to fuel innovation, or they fuel innovation. Now, we apply or talk about applications of McClelland's need theory. First of all, we talk about its importance in the field of entrepreneurship. Globally, 68% of entrepreneurs are found to score very high on nAch. The traits that basically characterize them are risk tolerance, persistence, innovation, and there could be several others. We can take example of Sarah Blakely, who is the founder of Spanx. She was basically started her journey by selling fax machines, but then during that period she personally experienced discomfort of not having good quality lingerie. Because of that, that kind of an experience motivated her to come up with an idea, and the company was established like Spanx, which basically sells lingerie. Individuals with high nAch or nAch often display characteristics crucial for entrepreneurial success, such as risk taking propensity and persistence. For example, Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple, exemplifies a high nAch entrepreneur. Talking about its implication in economic growth, McClelland's research suggested a correlation between a nation's overall achievement motivation and its economic growth. While this theory has faced criticism, it continues to influence development economics and policies aimed at fostering entrepreneurship. So, basically setting aside the criticism, it is understandable that if nAch influences entrepreneurial activities, then of course that is going to contribute to economic growth, and that is why all over the world the economies, the leaders in different economies are emphasizing so much on the development of entrepreneurship, development of startups. India is not an exception. We have also seen the application of nAch in the context of gender discrimination. So, it has been observed that women led startups receive just 2.3% of venture capital funding or VC funding, despite men-women having equal amount of need for achievement. The barriers are stereotyping, threats, funding biases. Basically stereotyping, which can also be called sort of statistical bias, that influences or that probably works against women's success as entrepreneurs. Nevertheless, we can talk about many entrepreneurs. One good example is Whitney Wolf Herz's Bumble, which is basically an online dating platform that succeeded despite systemic barriers, proving nAch persists even in biased environments. nAch also contributes substantially in corporate innovation. The company 3M's 15% time rule, which allows the employees to pursue 15% of their work hour on projects of their choice, has immensely contributed to innovations. Similarly, Google's 20% time, where Google allows its employees to spend 20% of their work hour on projects of their own choice, where they can come up with new ideas, they can present innovative ideas and they can work on them. So, that kind of strategies have actually given birth to Gmail and AdSense. And there are many such examples. We call this entrepreneurship or corporate entrepreneurship. 3M and Google institutionalized nAch by giving employees autonomy, a strategy that birthed billion-dollar products. Of course, there are certain dark side of nAch also. For example, burnout. We have taken the example Japanese karoshi. Karoshi literally implies death due to overwork. So, this is a major concern all over the world, where a large number of people die every year out of overwork. Achievement may push someone to such an extent, that may lead to substantial deterioration of health and finally death. Similarly, people may also go for unethical shortcuts. For example, a very recent scandal is that of Theranos scandal, where its founder Elizabeth Holmes is basically found guilty of conducting several fraudulent activities, and probably now she is serving an 11-year jail term. So, we need to also adopt certain mitigating approaches, for example, ethical training, counseling individuals about maintaining certain work-life balance policies, which may help in managing the dark sides of this nAch. And because of its despite of its positive effect, because of these dark sides, we need to be careful about how much achievement orientation one individual should have. This graph simply shows the deaths due to long working hours per 100,000 individuals in 2016, and as you can see from here that darker the color, the higher is the number of deaths. For example, places with dark red actually have more than 22 individuals dying out of 100,000 individuals in 2016 due to overwork. So, even though not dark, India is also in the category of 15 to 21.9 individuals dying, and you can see mostly the Southeast Asian economies and then some Northeast African, East European economies, a large number of Middle East countries, they are heavily characterized by overworking and then deaths occurring due to that. Now, talking about nPow in political economy or in economics broadly, it helps in corporate lobbying. Open Secrets, a national premier institute or rather research institute examining the money that goes into US politics, reported that $44.1 billion was spent in 2022 in US politics. Through basically corporate lobbying, political entities try to influence the markets. There are examples of revolving doors between government corporations, which implies that individuals holding legislatory or regulatory positions in government, they basically also switch their positions by taking the roles of employees and lobbyists in industries. As a result of which, there is very strong connection between industry and government, which tries to influence the policies that governments are supposed to implement in favor of some industries, those who are capable of spending more and influence government decisions more, which in short called corporate lobbying. For example, Meta's $20 million annual lobbying budget to turn regulations in its favor reflects nPow's role in shaping policy. It is a double-edged sword for economic systems. Now, we talk about nAff in consumer behavior. So, we take examples of brand communities. For example, Harley Davidson HOG, which stands for Harley Owners Group. This is actually not a social network team, or this is rather can be called a sponsored community of marketing team. So, they receive a lot of facilities and then promotional offers, and they also help spread awareness about Harley Davidson's community, basically product. They are basically enthusiasts of Harley Davidson's products. The writers, that is why, are not simply customers, they are tribes. Similarly, social commerce now account for 47% of Gen Z's purchases via TikTok or Instagram. nAff thus drives today's $700 billion social commerce market. So, the key takeaways are, first of all, nAch drives innovation, but it requires certain ethical checks. nPow shapes corporate political dynamics. Of course, ethical checks are also required there. nAff fuels brand loyalty and social commerce. In summary, McClelland's need shape economies from startups to lobbying. Now, we talk about how achievement motivation can be measured. There are three alternative procedures. We begin with thematic apperception test, or in short TAT. Here, ambiguous scenes are described to learn more about a person's emotions, motivations and personality. The second one is self-reports, where basically questionnaires are given, the individuals are supposed to fill them up. And the third one is behavioral matrix. Measurements relating to customer behavior and their expected engagements are basically considered in behavioral metrics. McClelland's used TAT to decode hidden motives. Today, startup investors use pitch competitions to gauge founders' nAch. It is crucial to consider cultural context when measuring these motivations, as they may manifest differently across different cultures. The TAT is a projective technique, meaning it relies on individuals projecting their own thoughts, feelings and experiences onto ambiguous stimuli. So, how does it work? Participants are basically presented with a series of cards featuring black and white images of people in various situations. Then they are asked to tell a story about each card. So, basically what do you perceive from the card, what do you see in the card, or if you can come up with a narratives from whatever you see in the cards, including what is happening, what the characteristics, what the characters are thinking and feeling, and what the outcome might be. as perceived by the individuals or the subjects. That is why TAT is also known as picture interpretation technique. Now, how TAT is interpreted? Psychologists analyze the stories for recurring themes, patterns and content to understand the individual's personality and psychological processes. Next we talk about another theoretical approach, enjoyment of anticipation. This was given by George Shackle. He developed a novel theory in 1940s on the idea that human imagination enables us to engage in enjoyment by anticipation. This explains why people stake money on lotteries and bets despite finding it hard to imagine that they will win. For example, in lotteries most often the chances of winning is very small. Nevertheless, why do we put money or stake some amount of money in lotteries? Because once they have made or once we make investment or purchase in gambling or we commit ourselves in a gambling, we can enjoy the excitement of thinking about what we would be able to do if we did win. So, basically the anticipation gives us a lot of pleasure. Anticipal pain, anticipal pleasures play important role in behavioral economics as well. So, neoclassical analysis generally underestimate the demand for lotteries because they focus on the probability weighted expected utility of the gamble being successful and ignore enjoyment by anticipation. Ideally what it says is that I purchase say a lottery ticket which if I win is going to give me 100,000 rupees, but if my chance of winning is very small like 0.01 is the probability, then or it can be even smaller than that 0.001, then in that case the winning amount is very small. It's possible that the winning amount actually is smaller than the amount that I pay in order to purchase the lottery ticket. So, in any case a very small probability or a higher price, relatively higher price for the lottery ticket in relation to the the probability of winning or the expected value from the lottery may discourage me to purchase the lottery. Nevertheless, we often purchase lottery, people do buy lottery tickets, that is because there is certain enjoyment out of anticipation. If Shackle's analysis is correct, consumers will have a motivation for making commitments for consumption activities such as vacations, dates, weddings, concerts and sporting events well in advance of the time necessary to ensure the event can be organized. So, there are certain things which we study in intertemporal choice preferences and there all these things actually matter a lot. This idea has far reaching implications as when we visit bricks and mortar retail sites or e-commerce platforms or a tradesperson visit us to discuss our home improvement ideas, because then we get streams of novel stimuli that can serve as food for thought even without making any commitment to spend any money. So, these days since we have the markets or the shops just in our mobile in our hands, many times we just go through e-commerce sites looking for products. Many times we actually do not buy, but we see things. We also have the option of putting things in our wish list. Wish list typically implies that I wish to have these things. So, having them in wish list actually implies that I wish to have them in sometime in future maybe, and that gives me a lot of enjoyment. So, even if I am not making purchases, but I am having some ideas that getting some enjoyment, getting some pleasure from the idea or from the fact that I am going through things, I am liking them, I am enjoying them and I am probably anticipating that in some time I probably will be able to own some of them. It is more like the way daydreaming gives us novel stimuli. Further, as noted by Tibor Skitowski, modern shopping environments in malls offer us opportunities to eat, socialize and enjoy a climate controlled environment full of visual and other stimuli. So, it basically goes even further, simply enjoyment out of anticipation, but it also gives us stimuli from different other sources. We enjoy socialization process or socializing process, we enjoy the climate control environment and things like that. Hawthorne noted that inability to fulfill basic needs combined with very limited resources make life for the poor a series of gambles in which hopes are focused on keeping distress at bay rather than on new experiential opportunities. So, for the poor people, what basically gives them stimuli? Hawtrey noticed that we also get motivation out of distress, and that is specifically true for probably the poor people. For them, keep their life moving, keep their life moving in a along a smooth line is itself is a challenge, and that basically give them certain motivation to keep on. For them the challenge is to keep distress at bay, even though it may not be possible that they are enjoying those challenges on a day to day basis, but nevertheless that challenges keep them motivated to continue working. Skidowski argued that excess comfort in modern affluent societies is the reason for the pursuit of high excitement activities. So, basically we look for experiential opportunities which poor people do not need, because their life is already full of so many challenges. But those who do not face any more challenges in life, they basically look for experiential opportunities which also include high excitement activities. Some events put life at risks like mountaineering, and there are other adventures which are somewhat risky. Several theme park rides or adventure sports give the consumers a sense of living on the edge, though they also follow the safety protocols, as a result of which you enjoy having the thrill, but at the same time you know that there are sufficient safety gears and your life will not be jeopardized. Further, Skidowski emphasized the relationship between the amount of novelty we face and how comfortable we feel. It takes the form of an inverted U-shaped curve, because at some point a rise in the degree of novelty or intensity in incoming stimuli produces a maximum level of comfort, and further increases may eventually reduce our comfort levels so far that we want to be elsewhere. So, this is the shape of the curve that Skidowski prescribes. We are measuring comfort on the vertical axis and stimuli on the horizontal axis. So, what simply he says is that with initial increase in stimuli, our comfort may increase, in the sense we may feel good, but then after a certain point of time the comfort reaches its maximum, further stimuli actually makes us uncomfortable, and as a result of which we may quit that thing. It can be an adventurous sport, it can be anything in which we are. So, we would like to be somewhere else instead of being in this process where we are getting constant stimuli constantly. Next we talk about another theory on motivation, which is the instinct of workmanship by Thorstein Veblen. I have already talked about Veblen in the previous lectures, and understanding of human behavior is the starting point for all economic reasoning. In Veblen's view, human nature comprises irreducible innate instincts and learned habit. So, he basically emphasizes on instincts. In general, Veblen identified instincts as specific innate tendencies of the mind that has evolved in the process of adaptation of species to the environment. In particular, Veblen defined the instinct of workmanship as the main determinant of technological progress, in that it occupies the interest with practical expedients, ways and means, devices and contrivances of efficiency and economy, proficiency, creative work and technological mastery of facts. He also observed that such an instinct would entail an appreciation of effective work, distaste for future effort and a drive for technological improvement. So, beside having the importance of instinct in contributing to technological mastery of facts and creative works, he also emphasized that instinct would entail an appreciation of effective work, distaste for future effort and drive for technological improvement. So, these are basically the main themes of the instinct of workmanship as theorized by Thorstein Veblen. The key elements are pride in workmanship, efficiency and effectiveness in production, aversion to waste and futility. In a nutshell, if the existing institutional circumstances are not too obstructive, the instinctive nature of humans will express itself in ways that give rise to new technological insights. Objectives that people adopt to pursue are, in Veblen's view, a matter of instinct. This sharply is in contrast with pecuniary emulation, which refers to an individual's economic effort to surpass his peers in socio-economic status. So, previously we have talked about his conspicuous, Veblen's concept of conspicuous consumption, which ideally entails this concept of pecuniary emulation. Basically, you try to purchase things of status in order to compete with your peers. Now, Veblen's workmanship instinct explains Japan's monozukuri, where artisans prioritize mastery over profit. Monozukuri actually in Japanese, if translated, it is to make things or is manufacturing, but it is much more than just making things or manufacturing. It is sort of it also entails Japanese work ethics. It is the drive for perfection in the Japanese community or among Japanese people. So, this is how the workmanship instinct can be observed in Japan's monozukuri. The instinct of workmanship influences product quality, innovation and consumer preferences. We see this in the growing markets for artisanal and handmade goods, creating a tension with mass production methods. So, though mass production methods are cheaper and they are produced in larger quantities, easily made available in the market, and that is why they are preferred, but then those who can afford this, those who have a taste for artisanal products, handmade goods, then basically in order to promote them, we are now gradually seeing a growing demand or growing market for these commodities as well. There is also luxury craftsmanship, for example, Hermes handbags. So, it takes 18 to 24 hours per bag and it sells for $10,000 or more. So, artisanal markets are now worth $1.2 trillion. Basically, this shows that the global artisan economy as per UNESCO is a growing market. The instinct of workmanship relates closely to intrinsic motivation, the internal satisfaction derived from work itself. This contrasts with extrinsic motivation driven by external rewards. Balancing these motivations is crucial for job performance and satisfaction. Previously also talked about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So, this again comes back. Intrinsic is the joy of creation. Extrinsic are like outside rewards, bonuses, promotion, etc. Intrinsic motivation boosts creativity by 34% according to a study by Amabile in 1996. Now, talking about impact of productivity and innovation, we can take example of Patagonia's wear repair over replacement. Basically, Patagonia is a company which promotes individual to use or to repair their worn out garments. Instead of purchasing new product, they basically encourage customers to go for repair of small things or large things. They provide customized services on the spot in their retail stores, or maybe to their service products are at times taken to their service centers. The products are somewhat expensive. They are built with very high quality materials so that they can last for long period of time, and then even when there are small repair works necessary, then that can also be done. So, as this approach is basically encourages individual to associate themselves with Patagonia. They also encourage individuals to return their used garments, and then though they are probably sold to others after a certain after processing them somewhat. So, outcome is that 30% revenue from reused gear. Craft driven firms patent 2 times more. It has been observed by a MIT study. Patagonia's repair program is not just eco-friendly, it is a $100 million+ revenue stream driven by craftsmanship values. We can also talk about Rolex craftsmanship. They take 1 year to make one Rolex, as a result of which there is 80% gross margin. Consumer perceive these products as heirloom. So, heirlooms are something which we value extremely, that has been traditionally obtained from our ancestors. So, that kind of a very high value is associated with Rolex products. Rolex 1 year production cycle creates artificial scarcity. So, basically it will not be very easily available in the market. it also blends workmanship with Veblen's conspicuous consumption. Now, talking about craftsmanship in the modern economy, we look at craftsmanship as the resurgence of artisanal production seen in crafts, breweries and bespoke fashion. It demonstrates the enduring appeal of the workmanship instinct. This maker movement has significant economic impact, but faces challenges in scaling and competing with mass production. Maker movements ideally refer to the current movement which emphasizes on not only procuring things that are made by artisans, but also doing things on your own. So, for example, DIY concept, then trying to solve problems on your own at any point of time, the problems that can be solved by an individual. So, these encouragements are can broadly be called maker movement. So, this emphasis on do it on your own, do it yourself is basically also giving encouragement into the communities, to individuals to go for things which are made by those which are handmade, those which are crafted by individuals and not machine made. So, the future trend is that if we go for technology enabled craftsmanship, then possibly we can streamline the processes better, and that may further lead to flourishment of the market. With this, I conclude this lecture. These are the references that I used for this lecture. Thank you.